So Pope Leo XIV blessed a block of ice. And before anyone accuses me of being some kind of anti-environmental Neanderthal, let me be clear that Catholics have always believed in the stewardship of creation. It's right from the book of Genesis. And a number of saints, of course, St. Francis of Assisi is often invoked, but there were a number of saints that appreciated the beauty of God's creation and our duty to be good stewards. But what happened in the context of this environmental gathering on October 1st wasn't really Catholic piety. It was liturgical theater at best. It was like a performance art. And it represents something a little bit more dangerous than just one awkward photo op. So the Vatican organizes this conference celebrating the 10th anniversary of Francis's encyclical Laudato Si. They bring in 500 delegates, politicians, NGO activists, climate justice advocates, and the centerpiece of the whole event, a chunk of ice from a Greenland glacier. Can you imagine the carbon expended just to acquire this thing and get it? I mean, this is what I always found funny. All these private jets, all these celebrities. Oh, it's the environment. Meanwhile, the carbon coming out of Jimmy Kimmel's mouth is probably enough to fit, the carbon quota for a small country. But all these famous people will fly and put, even if the carbon threat was as real as they say, and there's science to dispute that as well. There's a bit of a debate. Even if it was true, they have rules for you. You're not allowed your air conditioner, but it's okay for them to acquire a block of Greenland ice at great expense, supposedly, to the environment. And is the ice from the Greenland glacier any more efficacious than the ice from, your local convenience store? It's all very bizarre to me. So Leo sits behind this melting ice and says, God will ask us if we've cultivated and cared for the world he created in front of his expensive block of ice, for the benefit of all and for future generations, and if we have taken care of our brothers and sisters. Felix, do you detect any first commandment in there?
No. Like it's like a Met Gala thing. Like, I don't know. It just, it felt very performative. But the one thing I'll say is, like, okay, he's blessing water or ice, right? Like, water is blessed. We get holy water. I can kind of see, I can work with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with blessing water or the ice block. I mean, this is kind of funny. Right. There's all this, if you notice the Catholic Twitter, there was this, I always get a kick out of the people that said, it's, we have to avoid extremes on both ends. He's just blessing both. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, it's the theater of it, right? It's
the theater
of it. There's nothing wrong with blessing water or ice for purpose, but this was done for show. Like, the thing is that, he makes the sign of the cross over the ice, and then, the audience applauds. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all characters, calls the Pope an action hero, right? And the Pope talks about ecological conversion being no different from the one that orientates us towards the living God. He demands that Catholics worldwide put pressure on governments to develop and implement more rigorous regulations, procedures, and controls. See, the cost of this is the ordinary person's ability to make a proper living and have a quality of life. Because this whole climate machine, and I've said climate so many times, we're going to get a flag on the bottom.
Right.
But no, this whole thing, and not denying there's some aspects of it that is true. I mean, it's not there's a lot of fraud, but there's some true aspects too. But essentially, the person that has to suffer for this is always the ordinary person. The elites. If the Vatican wants steak, John Kerry and Arnold Schwarzenegger want steak, they can have it. But the ordinary person, oh no, we have to get you all eating synthetic stuff and
ground up locust.
Yeah, eat your locusts and stuff like this. And this is the thing that I get angry at. It's not, I don't get angry at a difference of opinion. Me, I'm very pro environmental stewardship in the sense that for me, it's ocean health. That's my particular thing. I'm concerned with all the plastic and crap and sewage going into the ocean. And we're not, I think doing all we can to take care of that. I don't believe cow farts are bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hey,
if you want, Phil, but the thing is that, this is ridiculous. They have one set of rules for us, the peasants, and another set of rules for them. And then they throw it on us that we have to convince our governments. Listen, there's no need to convince the governments. They're using it to control the people. They're using this. They use the church as a prop. They use Leo as a prop. This is the most, it's so dishonest. The whole thing is a pile of crap, not a pile of ice, a pile of crap. And, you're not allowed to be a scientist in this field and disagree with the primary narrative. They silence you, they censor you, they accuse you of all kinds of things that without evidence. And it's just a sad state on this anti-truth based world where we contort. Like it used to be when I was younger, there was debate on stuff. There was the ability to agree to disagree, or at least say to the other, okay, well, what things do we have to see? If science has to be predictive and repeatable, good, okay. So given your model, what do you predict to see, blah, blah, blah. And then we see if it works. And if it doesn't, we throw that model out, we do something else. They have not produced a single predictive model. It's all a bunch of BS. And yet they're ruining whole economies over it. Canada is basically deindustrializing. So is the UK. They try to do it in the US. Fortunately, we had a change in regime. But the thing is that who suffers with this? But the ordinary people. And I get very angry because, the church goes on, oh, we have a preferential option for the poor. What a load of crap. You don't have a preferential option for the poor. Your cardinal from D.C. is collecting, $6 million in pen. Don't give me that BS. It's okay to have disagreements with Michael or Felix or all this kind of stuff, but don't lie to us. Don't disrespect the people that are putting money in your basket and lie to them about also the certainty of this science, point one, and point two, who pays the price for these stupid policies while the rich have their caviar and their private jets and blocks of ice flown in from bleeping Greenland.
Right.
And you get to eat locusts. Oh, but John the Baptist don't even start. I actually had someone say that to me. They're lucky I was in a better cheer. So the thing is, some people will look at me and will say, Michael, are you overreacting? It's just a symbolic gesture about caring for the environment. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. The church doesn't bless concepts. The church blesses things and persons for spiritual purposes, okay? And when a priest blesses water, it becomes holy water, set aside for spiritual warfare, for baptism, for the driving out of demons. When a bishop blesses a church building, he consecrates it as a house of God for God's use, a place where the holy sacrifice of the Mass will be offered. When someone blesses a rosary or a medal, like a miraculous medal, we're setting it aside for devotional use, connecting it to the treasury of grace of the church. The blessings have meaning. They're not random. They're not just gestures. They're not performance art. They're sacramental actions rooted in 2,000 years of Catholic tradition. Blessing a block of ice for a bunch of rich people flying in on private jets and having the audacity to go on about preferential option for the poor when your predecessor said don't even use an air conditioner. Can you imagine, Felix, how many old people and little kids would we kill in hot countries without the use of an air conditioner? But
right.
Again, it's only the rich that are supposed to have that. So I'm sick and tired of the Church of God being attached to these elitists and these WEF, these World Economic Gathering organizations, and they have their little cocktail parties and hang out with the rich. And I have a priest friend up in D.C. He told the last cardinal, he says, why don't you visit my poor parish here? And they said, oh, well, no, I'm busy. I'll just delegate you to do all. And he says, you're supposed to be my bishop. Visit your people. And he said, maybe if you spent a little bit more time amongst the poor, you say you serve instead of the Shriver and the Biden family, maybe some things would get done and better here. Where's the zeal for souls? There's no zeal for souls. There's zeal for let's clamp down on cow farts. Let's recycle better. Let's spray aluminum in the sky, right? Without anybody voting for it or anybody's permission. Where's the church standing for the ordinary person saying this is immoral? This is immoral. You do not change the atmosphere without a hell of a lot more proof than you're walking to, just because you got some guy who on paper is Catholic and very rich that funds it. So apparently church people can be bought off fairly cheap, but not in this house and not in yours. Kick these damn hirelings to the curb. It's ridiculous. You know, the thing is that what grace is being imparted to this frozen water that's there to use as a prop? A puddle in an hour. And this is a symptom of what I call mixed religion, taking forms and gestures of the authentic faith, the faith of the saints, the faith that people marched into battle. You see that in my opening credits, I put interspersed, a mix of the stupidity, the frivolity of modern Christianity, and I compare it to the resolve of the crusading knights. When people actually believed in their faith, and they weren't lecturing the poor that they supposedly care about why they should allow all these criminals and, destruction of their societies and communities, because we're not rich enough to afford a Swiss Guard or walls around our house and church. But the rich can. Oh, you can only fly in, their proposals of the World Economic Gathering is, oh yeah, we're going to have digital currency. We're going to turn it off and on if you don't behave and follow the narrative. And oh, by the way, we're going to, you're only allowed to use an airline ticket once a year because we're protecting the environment. Meanwhile, all the rich guys are going to be able to use their private jets. They don't care whether Felix can visit his family or whether you can see your new granddaughter. And all the while, they try to guilt you into thinking that if you stand against it and say, where's the proof for any of this stuff? And who's getting rich from it? Who's getting rich from this stuff? Canada's deindustrializing. So some of you viewers are Canadian, or you're at least familiar with the news, what's going on up there. And the current prime minister, I joke, because Canadians typically, there's a lot of Canadians up there. There's Canadians that love President Trump, like in Alberta and stuff, but there's lots of Canadians who don't like President Trump. And one of the things I said to some guy who was giving me grief about President Trump, and I said, you know what President Trump and Prime Minister Carney have in common? I'm going to pause here and see if you guys can guess it. And I'm going to ask Felix too. I'm going to have a drink. No. What do you think Prime Minister Carney and President Trump have in common?
Wow. I don't know.
Here's the answer. Over 90% of their investments are in the United States of America. Like, if you don't believe in your own country, what are you doing, right? But anyway, I digress. So,
yeah,
he wrote a book called Values, which is all about this new carbon economy. And the church is right in on this stuff. But basically, they have all these carbon credits and stuff, and it's all convoluted BS to destroy the middle class and turn into sort of like a technological feudalism. And it's completely unacceptable. And it would make people like Chesterton and Bullock and, the folks that the Cristeros, the Vendees, all these Catholics who just, Father McGivney, the Knights of Columbus. I mean, these are examples of Catholics that worked for the ordinary person to have the freedom of their faith, the freedom for their livelihood, what Americans in the secular sense call a pursuit of happiness. And that should be the right of everybody in the West. And the church is working against it. The institutional church has been opposed to the flourishing of its own people for some time. And this has got to stop. This has got to stop. They say, this turkey was going on about there the other day that, oh, you're not pro-life unless you're against, if you're mean to a migrant or you're pro-death penalty. Completely against what has been taught before. But apparently, if it doesn't fit into the globalist narrative, if you want, I'm ranting a little bit here. I apologize. Don't normally get Hulk Rally, but this is just too much. If you want some insight into what's going on, I'm going to give you something that Leo, Francis, and Benedict XVI have recommended, Lord of the World by Hugh Benson. It was written in 1907. It's 99 cents on Kindle. And I got to tell you, you read that, you can see what's going on between true and false church. And so thank you for those of you who are part of the restoration, part of the wanting to restore both the secular order and the ecclesial order, regardless of your church community. We're trying to basically find the older forms of Christianity that existed pre-1960. And if you're part of that restoration, even if you're not part of my group, we're friends, because we'll agree to disagree on maybe some of the details, and we hope that God will show us the way to sort those out so that it can be united in one church again. And with God, it's not impossible. And I just wonder, is he wrapping it up? Is he just going to allow it to have the persecution and the final trial, or are we going to have a period of restoration and grace first? And there's schools of thought on both sides, and that's down a rabbit hole for today. But what I'm saying is that for those of you who are working for the restoration, man, I'm so grateful to you, because I'm in service to God, because turkey's flying a whirlwind, I guess. People had to stand, and the thing is that I wanted to run from it, because it's in many cases a thankless job. You're dealing with people that think you're crazy because you're trying to restore things to the old ways, and those of you who get it, and some of you watching are just you're curious about what I was going to say, and so you're not really part of the mission. But for those who are part of that mission, where we want to replace mixed religion with authentic Christianity, then again, I thank you for your prayers and your support and watching. Felix and I unpack some of this stuff every week. So the thing is that it's here's what Leo said. He said, "We cannot love God whom we cannot see while despising his creatures." Felix, is a devil a creature?
Yeah.
Is a cockroach a creature?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to
Everything's
despise
created
him?
except God. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what's wrong with this guy? Like, what is his malfunction? Do you think like he maybe it was an air conditioner leak and some of the chemical got in there, because maybe that's why they really hate air conditioners, or maybe they grew up in a farm and they were too close to the cows flatulating, because that might be why they're against cows. But the thing is on surface it sounds lovely. It's not true. As usual with these globalists, I don't care what color of suit they wear. I don't care what color of cassock they wear. If you're a globalist, almost every word that comes out of you is falsity or misleading. Because on the surface, that sounds lovely what he said, but it's classic modernist theological sleight of hand. He's collapsing the distinction between creator and created. Right? Where's the first commandment in any of this synodal BS? Where's the first commandment? It's nowhere to be found. Right?
Yeah.
I read this article. Some of you watch me on Substack or read my Substack. If you read the one that was I was responding to somebody against the death penalty, and they thought they had this slam dunk argument about why people like me and Edward Fieser and others are wrong. And he was just all these false equivalencies. Like, I don't mind if you have an honest disagreement and respectful disagreement. And because I was a little testy with this individual, I blocked out his name, not because I put a link. If someone really wanted to find out who I was going after, they can find out. But my reason why I blocked the name is I'm actually not against this guy. I used to follow him in the past, and I thought he was half decent in the beginning. And then he drank the Kool-Aid on this Francis thing, which led into this Leo thing. And these guys are just brutal. Like, they do not serve. They serve as a puppet of the globalists more than they do God. And it's so evident to anybody who's read Lord of the World or sees this, and then you sound like a crazy person to those who don't see it. So, I mean, I don't know, Felix, you want to jump in on there, or what would there's a certain segment that would certainly think I was a crazy man, right?
Well, I mean, usually that's the segment that is crazy is the one that thinks we're crazy, so it's okay, so I'm not that upset about it. I will say a couple things. One, I think your microphone is off, but we can hear you, but I think we're hearing you through the laptop
microphone
or something like
Here,
that.
Let's see.
But what else was I going to say? Yeah, it's like there's another thing, another vibe, if I can be so bold to use that word, that I got from that is they were being. It was almost like it was like a submissive gesture, more to the movement of like you said, globalism and the environment, as opposed
Right.
to how do you say praising God.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on with that. It's actually, yeah, absolutely. It was like a paraliturgy in honor of this new god they trotted out, the god of Telhard or whatever.
Yeah.
It's I think I am a rabbit hole. Where's my one of my audience sent me this nice gift. It's a pint glass with down the rabbit hole, and I keep meaning to do like a little animation so Felix can hit a button and I'll come up with the rabbit hole. We'll do that.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, no, but the thing is that it's just a heartbreak that these guys do it. Like it's the God of the world. It's the Lord of the world. Like it's in that book. It's they've turned the church into some weird NGO that's just basically the left at prayer. And then they wonder why people have stopped giving to them. Like even people that still cling to the institution. Like, first of all, it's my opinion, and you guys are welcome to disagree with it. I do not believe the mainstream institutional church, is the best place for Catholic to be. I think that there's all kinds of traditional churches. Some of you go to FSSP and SSPX and some of the Sadie chapels or one of my chapels or whatever. There's a, we can talk about this at length some other time, but we're getting to the point where, I used to just believe it was a matter of charism, that trads and moderns could coexist and God would sort of bring us all together. And I realized, I had sort of an epiphany. I realized, we have different deities. Fulton Sheen in 1946 predicted a time, and he was retelling a story of a number of saints done it. Maybe we should do an episode on that someday. But he's repeating the prophecy that there'll be before the end, before the final deception, there'll be a period of time where the true believer and the non-believer will exist in the same church. And he called it ape church. And it really has accelerated, because the thing is, Leo is a lot nicer than Francis. Like, he's a nicer man. He also dresses with more reverence. You can tell he cares more about the liturgy of the church and the like. So he's warmed a lot of people's hearts, but you can tell from his appointments what he really believes, and he's furthering the Francis agenda. And Francis does not belong to God. Francis belongs to the World Economic Gathering and United Nations globalist thinking. And you see it, you just see it so clearly. And it's a heartbreak, because as a faithful Catholic, how can you follow, an ambassador is supposed to be loyal to the king, and our leaders are held to a higher standard, not a less high standard than you and I as regular baptized people or as priests and bishops. So the thing is that, of course, we shouldn't despise God's creatures. I mean, Leo's right that way. But the first commandment isn't thou shalt care for creation. The first commandment is, I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me, including this Gaia nonsense, this environmental nonsense. And when you start talking about ecological conversion or being no different from conversion to the living God, then you've made creation a co-equal part. And that's not Catholicism. That's pantheism with a Roman collar. Right? And it's so some people, you either see it or you don't. So if you tend to the left side of the spectrum, political spectrum, I don't like this right-left. It's not really right and left. It's, do you have a classical frame like Aristotle and Aquinas of looking at the world around you? Or do you have a postmodern frame like Teilhard and Francis? And those are two different worldviews, and they don't mix. Like, there's no way of squaring that circle. So you're one or the other. You either believe that there is an absolute truth to be known, and we can fight about maybe some aspects, we can agree to disagree, but that there is an absolute truth to be known, or you can believe that everybody just has their own truth, and that it's about consensus. There was a real, I don't know if I wrote an article on it yet, but I'm going to. There was a real embarrassing thing. Leo, on his first interview with Crux magazine, admitted that doctrine, in his conception, doctrine changes after attitudes change. So what's missing from that,
What?
Felix? What's missing from that? Oh, when someone asked him if the doctrine can change, I think it was in the context of women's ordination, and he said, "Well, we have to change attitudes first." So what's missing from that, Felix? Which we've just been
God.
going on about.
Oh,
Like,
God. I don't know.
No one's even asking about God, right? What does he want?
Yeah.
It doesn't even enter these people's head. Do you know when Francis died? This is I wish I could get the clip. I don't save the listen. I save all kind. I have this thing called Evernote. Some of you guys have it too, and I got like 12,000, 13,000 clips in there. But it's good because they're tagged, right? You can find stuff. But here's the thing: I don't clip the stuff that's actually useful. I clip a lot of nonsense. But there was this great clip, and it was people paying an homage when Francis died, and it was very insightful. And there's nothing bad about it. I'm just saying. But it was a picture of Francis, like it was AI generated, and there's Francis, and then Pope John Paul II and Benedict the 16th, they were hugging Francis. They were walking Francis, and the clouds were in the background, and and then there's the last three popes in heaven. And my Sadie friends would say, well, they weren't popes, but you know what?
Right.
The visible head, right? So we're going to call them popes. But anyway, so there they are in heaven. What was missing from that scene? Felix?
Well, God.
Right. And so I said, leave it to the moderns. I said, leave it to the postmoderns. Their heaven has no God. You know what a postmodern heaven has? It has family reunions, and it is fun, and it has parties, and it is happy. Everybody's happy. There's never any God in their heaven. It's the weirdest thing. I shouldn't say never. There's some depictions of it, but even their depiction of God there is like he's so flaky, he's like a golden unicorn. They treat him like a bobble-headed prop. I get so angry. Your Lord and King. That's why in those little credits, there's a lot in there. Actually, I'm going to keep adding to it over time. You notice, I don't know, Felix, did you see the opening credits today?
Oh yeah. I was watching. I saw the.
So I added some stuff, right? So I add a couple little things, but that's it. And I mean, I add some of the things that are going on, like the dancing priest, which we won't go on. I mean, again,
yeah, that was hilarious. I mean, it's actually sad, but
well, you will laugh or you cry, right? You laugh or you cry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stick that in there, and then but the Crusader imagery is important too, because it's going to be people like you, my friends in Christ. It's going to be people like you that say, I'm not taking this anymore. And I do believe in this stuff. I believe in this stuff. It might even be worth going out in your backyard and looking at that beautiful night sky and just hollering it. And people think you're absolutely crazy. But the thing is, man, they're trying to make us numb. Those of you who are like C.S. Lewis fans will know there's a book called The Silver Chair. And in it, it describes the witch's power of making everybody numb. And that's what it's like. You get people, I'm going to go Catholic. I go to this mass. And, it was fine. That ukulele was okay. And the chicken dance. And, it's okay if the priest just talks about recycling and open borders. What the bleeping is wrong with you people? Wake up. Wake up. Souls are being lost over this stupidity. While Leo is blessing ice, Christians are being murdered in Nigeria and Syria and China and other places. Christians are losing their jobs because they're just for being Christian. And this guy would speak more about someone's respect of someone with weird pronouns than he would about someone losing their faith because they went in the wrong pro-life march. In fact, he'll have the audacity to say, well, they're not really pro-life because they're not in favor of open borders. Do you need my C boot to boot you down the road, you fool? This is ridiculous. First of all, pro-life is a political category. It's never been a church category. But yes, the defense of, it's something the church uses, but it's technically a political category. So he has no authority over what that name means. And he's just given cover to every freaking liberal that we had to endure for the last little years. Just give me great. It's what I call Podesta Catholic or Biden Catholic. So whatever. And I saw a bunch of these liberals, I don't know if they're Catholic or not, gloating that Leo says, he puts the mega Catholics in their place. They're not real Christians. It's just a bunch of crap. They should read some Aquinas on the matter. But I'm off on a rather rabbit hole again. You saw there's our friend Norm had in the comment earlier that about Romans 1. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie. and worship and serve the creature rather than the creator who is blessed forever. And this is precisely what we're watching happen. The language of worship, of conversion, of blessing, all being redirected away from God and towards things that are created, like the Pachamama statue and ice and climate and Mother Earth. You have a mother in heaven. Her name is our Blessed Mother, Mother of our Lord Jesus. That's your mother, not the earth. Give me a break. The earth is a created thing. It is meant to be our tool, and we take good care of our tools. But the world will not cease to exist 1 second before God has finished its use for it, and it serves the earth. We do not serve the earth. The earth serves us. We have dominion over it. It serves us. And the church serves God, not the United Nations. And Paul VI takes off the tiara, the symbol of the church's temporal authority. He takes off the tiara, and he goes to the UN in a subservient position and declares them the world's greatest hope. And his speech still exists on the Vatican website today. Go ahead and look it up. They have no shame. They should be in sackcloth and ash, defiling the temple of God, the Holy Mother Church, defiling it for their earthly purposes and their Marxism and their globalism. The erasure of the middle class. This is what's going to happen if we did half their climate crap. This net zero will impoverish people. Oh, that's okay. We're all equal. No, we're not all equal. That's another lie. Some of you can catch a baseball. Do you think it'll hit me in the head? We're not all equal in attribute. We have to be stewards of the resources that we're given. And if we have prosperity, we have a moral duty to help the less advantaged. But that does not mean that we sign up to some globalist board that redistributes everybody. Our Lord Jesus himself said, the poor we will always have with us. What is the church doing helping to bring people out of poverty? No, instead, they endorse this environmental crap, which will keep everybody in poverty. The biggest correlate, I want you to think right now, what is the predictor of a prosperity of a people that they're going to be able to get themselves out of the pit? Do you know what it is? Do you want to take a guess, Felix, or you want me to just go on?
No, go ahead. I'm definitely
Cheap energy. Cheap energy. Cheap, clean energy. Cheap energy will allow you to do all kinds of things, from power water pumps to be able to cook food so that you have healthy food, and to power businesses and whatever. And these idiots are running around with all this really poorly, inefficient green energy and ignoring nuke, which that would avoid the carbon, even if that's supposedly an issue, which is in debate. But they actually ignore the scientific advances that would help the poor people, and they embrace the stuff that'll help the grifters. And everybody gets their cut. Remember Solyndra, Felix?
I remember the name. Solyndra.
Big environment company. And then what happens is it goes bankrupt, leaves all the workers out of work. But everybody got their cut. That was part of the government. And
that was the Obama solar panel initiative, all that. Yeah, that's right. I
drove through Northern Oregon a couple years ago, and they have these they're actually engineering feats. Like, they're impressive. These huge, massive windmills. None of them are turning. Every time I drove through there, there's like one turning in a field of them. And then I come to find out, well, in a lot of cases, these windmills are built, but they didn't budget for the regular maintenance of them and all this kind of stuff. So again, it's all out of all the provinces and territories in North America, do you want to guess what is the poorest?
Wait, the poorest, repeat that again? I'm sorry.
What is the poorest state, province, or territory in North America?
Ooh. Wow. No, I'm going to say like Louisiana or Mississippi?
That's an excellent guess. Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia?
The land of my birth. And you know what they're doing? Their big idea, huge windmill farms.
No.
The same money that they're wasting on windmill farms, they could build a bank of GE Hitachi reactors that would produce reliable energy. They don't have to worry about peak and lulls. It would provide reliable, safe, clean, carbon-free energy. But few people are interested in the truth. They're interested in this new climate religion, which Leo apparently is the Pope of. So congratulations, Leo, and your Greenland ice. And when those windmills stop turning after the Nova Scotian people have had a chance of a future and they squander it on windmills that won't work, man, the story, like, it's not like this didn't happen before, Felix, right? It's the same old story. And where do they buy all the parts from? China. They've got a country that can't produce anything, and they send every bit of money that they do have. The rich take their cut, and the poor people, all the money goes to, and the church says nothing. The church doesn't. It's far from Father McGivney or the Antigonish movement or Chesterton and Bullock, where people were supposed to say, what are we doing for the ordinary person, so that when the middle class is taken care of and given proper Christian formation, so that they live the first commandment, they take care of the community. Subsidiarity does not have blocks of ice flown in from Greenland and 500 special guests so you can have a photo op with your block of ice.
Right.
So anyway, I'm way off script. I've got a little rant there, Felix.
No, hey,
there's nothing.
but you're on
There's
point, though.
nothing in my notes about clean energy.
Yeah, right. And they need oil. Those are oil-based windmills too. They need lubrication. They need all those stuff to.
Well, I'd like, and if you have the answer here, if some of you guys disagree with me, I mean, as long as it's respectful, like, put it in the comments. Say, Mikkel, you don't know what you're talking about the windmills. This is why they don't turn. That's fine. That's fine. We can have a discussion on that. I don't mind if you disagree with me. I don't think you're stupid or that you're evil just because you disagree with me. I mean, on these matters, the only thing I claim any kind of this is the truth is when I'm quoting scripture, the councils of the church, and the derivative catechism. I mean, and that's not my authority. That's the church's authority. It's God's authority. But I mean, even then, you can still disagree with me, respectfully. I'm just going to say, well, is your authority higher than God's? And then we can argue that you have a better insight into God than I do. That's fine. That's a discussion we can have. You don't have to hate one another for that. Yeah. So the thing is that I want to mention a little bit on Aquinas. So let's look at what the church sort of in a traditional frame would say it. Because before we get to the political manipulation, I want to explain something that most Catholics have never been taught. And that's St. Thomas Aquinas, who is the church's greatest theologian. And he taught that patriotism is a religious obligation. And Leo is against nationalism, you see. And Aquinas teaches the opposite. And so in the Summa, the second part of the second part, question 101, Aquinas treats the value of pietas, which translates as piety or dutifulness. And here's what he says. He says, man becomes a debtor to other men in various ways, according to their various excellence and the various benefits received from them. In both respects, God holds the highest place, since he is supremely excellent and is for us the first principle of being and government. But in a secondary way, the principles of our being and government are our parents and our country, from whom and in whom we were born and nourished. Therefore, after God, man is chiefly a debtor to his parents and his country. Now, isn't that interesting? Did you catch that? Aquinas places our duty to country immediately after our duty to God, not to Leo's ice cube. Oh, dear. He says that just as religion gives worship to God, so piety in the second degree gives honor to parents and patria, fatherland. Why? Because your country is part of the divinely ordained structure through which you exist. God created you through your parents, yes, but also in a specific time and place among a specific people, a nation with a specific language and culture. That's not accident, that's providence. Aquinas says that patriotism includes homage to all the fellow citizens and to all the friends of our country. Leo got in trouble. Leo and J.D. Vance have a disagreement. J.D. Vance has the mind of Aquinas and the old faith. Leo has Telhard and the UN. All right. J.D. Vance is more correct with the understanding of the order of love. And the thing is that, we have a preferential love for the people and place God gave you in context of your existence. That is what the old faith teaches. So unless you got golden plates, you hear a beam out zone noise and there's golden plates in your garage and it's now reinvented Catholicism and Christianity, we're going to stick with what the old saints say, not what the ice blessers say. The ice blessing theology runs headlong into Catholic tradition. When Leo says we're one family with one father and that we must care for the planet together as the primary moral imperative, he's collapsing the legitimate hierarchy of loves that Aquinas teaches. And maybe Leo needs a little Sunday school from J.D. Vance. He's replacing the particular incarnational and providentially ordered loves, the love of God, love of family, love of country, with an abstract, universal, disembodied love of humanity and love of creation. And that's just not Catholic social teaching. I mean, not unless, at least the Mormons had their golden plates. What does Leo have? He pulls it out of his buttocks? Right. What authority? What saints? What scripture? It's just globalism with the papal blessing. Aquinas would tell you that you owe more to your neighbor in Cleveland than to a stranger in Beijing. You owe more to a neighbor in Cleveland than you do to a stranger in Beijing. Think about that. Well, are we all equal? No, there's an order. There's a hierarchy on heaven and on earth. And not because the stranger has less human dignity, he doesn't, but because God has placed you in a specific web of obligations. And those closest to you have the first claim on your charity. That's why it's immoral, for example, like up in Canada, they're sending all their money to China, all these windmill parts and everything. All these ferries are being built, not with Canadian shipyards. Oh no, they're gonna have China build them. The global solidarity language coming from these Vatican climate conferences reverses this order. It says your primary obligation is to the planet and future generations and the global community, and not to actual flesh and blood people God has placed in your life, in your family, in your nation. And when you combine this with political pressure to adopt specific international regulations and global governance structures, you're not just teaching bad theology, you're actively undermining the natural loves and loyalties that make Christian civilization possible. And this is why so many people have problem with modern iterations of Christianity and modern Catholicism, because they go in to the churches and they hear this crap from the pulpit. And they're like, this is not the faith I understood. This is not the God I fell in love with. Why am I hearing this drivel from the pulpit? Because here's the thing, you can't love everybody equally. That's not how love works. There's an order of love. Think about it. There's God. There's the partner in your life. There's your children. There's your parents. There's your close friends. There's a different hierarchy. And the duties are different. The obligations are different. So the thing is, you can use abstract language to manipulate people into surrendering their legitimate particular loves in favor of this stupid leftist agenda that never seems to go away with these people. Francis receiving a hammer and sickle crucifix. Disgusting. And that's exactly what's happening here, this political manipulation. And they accuse us. They accuse the non-leftists. I don't consider myself right-wing. I consider myself a non-leftist. There's a difference. Same. Right?
Yeah.
There's lots of things I disagree with on the right-left, on the right for perspective, but I just want what God wants, right? It used to be, and this is why the blue collar are moving towards the so-called right-wing political party. It's because it used to be the church was on the side of the ordinary worker. They had guilds and unions, the anti-Ganesh movement, and all this kind of stuff. And now, basically the left has just chosen the freaks and the mentally ill and the grifters as their allies. They should be lucky that President Trump had the charity just to put a sombrero on their head, because they deserve much worse.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? He puts a sombrero on everybody who's not actually Mexican, including himself. I thought that's funny. So I don't know, maybe he should use a haggis or something for the Scottish or something. I don't know.
I know, right? Like, I don't know what. Yeah, right. The only other thing that they do is like American stuff. They'll have them like with eagles and stuff, and they don't like that either. So you can't win.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to put sombreros on our head too, but it would have a different meaning or whatever. I'm actually, so those of you who don't realize, so I'm new to this Cristero thing. Like, have you ever read the like, when I say new, I mean last 3 years? Never heard of the Cristeros. I got a friend who recently emigrated from Mexico, and she said she's never heard the Cristero, but and when she looked into it, it was all bad stuff down there. But you should look into the proper. There's even a movie out about them. I'll have to get the name. I'll have to ask Father Martin again. I've watched it, but I don't remember the name. But yeah, there's saints from this movement, and the church threw them under the bus, by the way. So, the problem is the church in its political aspects often lets us down, right? Even pre-Vatican II, it threw the Cristeros under the bus, and
Wow.
And the Cristeros were faithful to God, and the administrative aspect of the church was not. So political manipulation. I want to be clear that the church has every right to speak about moral principles that apply to political questions. There's not a strict separation of church and state in Catholicism. That's a Protestant American thing or a Mason thing. That's not a Catholic thing. We don't believe in absolute separation of church and state. But that does not mean we want a theocracy. I mean, my goodness, most clergy, I wouldn't let them, advise the dog catcher, let alone the governor. So
Christian monarchy. Let's go.
yeah. So, but the thing is that the church has a moral right to speak about these things. And Leo XIII did this brilliantly in Rerum Novarum, which is the famous Catholic social teaching encyclical. And it basically says the church can absolutely say you have a moral obligation to be a good steward of creation. We're not disagreeing with that. We should take care of the environment. What we're disagreeing is using the church and the environment as a prop to impoverish the middle class and to subjugate us under a slavery regime, because these things are all related. They want digital currency, turn off and on and off your money, control your diet so you don't have meat, make the meat so expensive you can only afford it rarely. All this stuff. They take away your air conditioner except for certain times. They want this Borg-like control, and we have to resist. This is a hill to die on. You resist this, right? If you have a priest in your church and he starts talking about this crap, get up, walk out. Say to our Lord, you've done your Sunday obligation. You've given God the honor that he's due, and they defiled it. So it's like if you're in a swimming pool and someone pees in it, if you stay in it, you kind of deserve it. Right?
That's on you. Yeah, right.
It's on you. You see the cloud of dye, you're supposed to jump out of the pool and run. You're not supposed to stay and wallow in the dye. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So the church does not have the authority to tell you which specific climate policy to support, or what is the proper science, which regulations to back, or which political candidates to vote for based on their environmental platform. And they do it. They don't have to say the name. You know which side they're on, and they're not my side. So when Leo blesses a block of ice in front of 500 political activists and tells Catholics to pressure governments, then he's not teaching faith and morals. He's doing political advocacy. And he's using the church as a prop, and that's defiling the temple. And the last time our Lord Jesus saw someone defile the temple, what did he do? He turned over the tables, and it's the only recorded instance of our Lord Jesus being physically violent. He made a whip of cords. He beat the stuffing out of the people for defiling his temple. This environmental nonsense defiles the Church of Christ. And a lot of people have never thought about it that way. Well, start thinking about it this way. These people, they presume that everybody's just going to listen to them with their crap. No, we are not. We were watching our cities in ruins, our middle class poor, our children not being able to afford a home, and you're telling us about recycling and cow farts and open borders. And no concern whatsoever for the safety or the prosperity of the existing people. And that's where a Father McGivney, who founded the Knights of Columbus, and these other people would say to Leo, what are you doing, man? Who are you working for? Who are you working for? Who are you working for? Because it's not God. So who is it? Is it a person? Is it a group of people? Is it some weird new pseudo religion of climate as your God? I don't know. But it's not the Catholic faith. It's not the Christian faith. So when traditional Christians look at this event, they see the successor of Peter, who should be blessing the faithful, consecrating bishops, defending doctrine, offering the holy sacrifice of the Mass instead of sitting on a stage with Hollywood celebrities and political activists, performing some symbolic gesture over melting ice that they flew in from Greenland. Give me a break. Why don't you just put a Greta head in the middle of it, right? How dare you?
With her Farquaad haircut that she has now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is. You got to give her that. Yeah. So, you know, it's a real crisis, and this is what kills me. People are dying without the sacraments right now because these idiots can't get their act together. There are Catholics in China being persecuted, Nigerians being macheted, little babies being macheted. This guy is worried about ICE and Hollywood actors. They're young people walking away from the faith because they never encountered anything more substantial than be nice and recycle. There are priests who don't believe in the real presence and treat our Lord like some sort of Pez dispenser. There are bishops covering up abuse. There are seminaries teaching heresy, and people just shrug. And Leo's blessing ICE. You see the problem? The church is facing a genuine crisis of faith. And instead of addressing it with the full weight of apostolic authority, we're getting symbolic gestures and political activism dressed up with the trappings of spirituality. And this is why traditional Catholics are horrified. Not because we don't care about creation or the environment, not because we're mean-spirited or rigid, or whatever dismissive label that gets thrown at us this week. We're horrified because we love the church. We love the sacraments. We love the apostolic faith. And we're watching it being sold for a few pieces of silver and a mess of environmental pottage. By all counts, Leo is a good and sincere man. I'm a little hard on him tonight. I pray for him every day. I'm not questioning his motives, but sincerity isn't enough. The road to hell, as they say, is paved with good intention. When you bless a block of ice at a political conference, you're not just making a harmless symbolic gesture. You're teaching Catholics and other Christians, especially young Catholics, who don't know any better, that this is what faith is about. Activism. Political engagement dressed up as spirituality. You're teaching them that the sacred can be casually deployed for whatever cause seems urgent this week, while the blood of the martyrs flows without even your verbal comment. You're teaching that there's no meaningful distinction between worshiping God and caring for creation. And when they figure out that that's not actually Catholicism, they won't reform it. They'll just leave. They'll just leave. And this is part of the reason why Felix and I do this, right? We're trying to give you guys some hope that there are others out like you, that we want to rebuild the church. And some of you already belong to traditional groups, and you have different ideas than maybe me of how to do that in detail, but we're part of the same mission, to restore the West. It's bigger than make America great again. It's restore Christendom. It's bigger than make our own little churches have lots of donations and stuff. It's bigger. It's about restore the ecclesial order so that we start becoming saint factories again instead of attempt to be a badly run NGO. And that's the real tragedy. It's not the melting ice, it's the melting faith. So what do? We should hold fast to what we received. We teach our children the actual faith with the traditional catechism, the creed, the commandments, the sacraments, reality of sin and grace and redemption. We refuse to trade the substance of Catholicism for its politically convenient shadow. And we pray for Leo, for the church, for ourselves, that we might have courage to love the faith enough to defend it, to speak against the defiled institution, to put the faith before the institution, even when that defense is uncomfortable, even when it costs you your friends. It's cost me friends. It's going to cost you friends. If we won't stand up for the integrity of Catholic worship, who will? Now, I have a couple slides here, which I just want to share with you. So this is what some of the media saw. Again, he makes it clear where his allegiances lie. J.D. Vance has Aquinas behind him. Who does Leo have behind him? Teilhard and the UN. There you go. Did you know you're not pro-life, Felix?
Wow.
There you go. This is from the National Conference of Catholic Bishops. Breaking down role, can you imagine? Go visit Dearborn, Michigan, and Lewiston, Maine. Go listen to the children of Telford. Yeah, you think open borders is going to mean more peace reigns? That's what the Holy Ghost wants? Listen to Bishop Snyder instead.
Yeah.
Right? There's a holy man. I wish he was Pope. So this is the thing.
This is sad.
This is the thing. I'm just so I get a little growly at this stuff because it's frustrating that Bishop Snyder, holiest bishop that I know that's living. He's amazing. And I think and again, some trad groups will have some issues with him. Some don't like aspects of his catechism and stuff like that. I get it. But in terms of someone that he could probably address these issues and unite a lot of us, it's probably him. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, so there you have it, folks. It's it's kind of crazy, and shall we take some comments? And I got some other questions here if we want to get to them. But why don't we take a look at comments?
All right, let's see where we're at here. Okay, so we'll start with the first because we got quite a few. We got Lee saying hello.
Lee saying hello. Yeah.
All right, now Norm, it's the whole climate change agenda is a ruse, distraction from what is true, what really matters, a blessing for the well-off and a curse for everyone else. Doesn't sound very Christian-like to me. Absolutely,
Norm. See, here's the thing, and again, it's fine. I don't want any of you to think that I'm contra taking care of the environment. I used to, as a kid, I used to love reading about Jacques Cousteau and his attempts at keeping the ocean healthy, and I'm a big fan of, like I say, ocean health, and also we all like clean air, right?
Yeah.
So there should be so I mean, there's no objection to taking care of the environment. My objection is this idea that carbon's a poison, because that's just not scientifically true.
That's a lie.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm tired of the lie. I'm tired of the new religion that's pretending to be like that seculars can see. Here's the argument ecumenically, that if you can get people on board with climate, that unites us all. And it's only mean fuddy-duddies like Norm and Felix and me that are, against the agenda. They need an enemy to growl at. Meanwhile, we're not an enemy as far as good stewardship. But what we are saying is that, you don't put creation in the place of God. And also the thing that breaks my heart is they really are throwing the ordinary person who's in poverty under the bus. And they want to, their idea is just to make everybody impoverished, rather than to bring the poor class into the middle class and some of the middle class into the upper class, and have something on the earth to work for. And instead they just want this Borg of equality, which is crap. It doesn't work. And it's a bad idea. Heaven isn't structured that way. There's a famous story told that an apparition once appeared. I think it was to St. Alphonsus. And it basically said, Philip II of Spain is in heaven. And Alphonsus responded, yeah, that's awesome. He had a reputation of being a good holy king, so I'm glad he made it. And then the next part of the story, this is just ad-libbed here, so you guys can fact check me on the precise story. But anyway, the idea was, oh yeah, but the lady who washed his underwear is much higher than he is for eternity in heaven, and he thinks that's wonderful. You see what I mean? God chooses, not us.
Right.
God is the authority, and we don't. It's just basically that heaven's a hierarchy, and on earth too, that we have. When you have resources, when you're successful, then yes, from your excess, you are. You should be helping others. Corporal works of mercy.
All right. Now let's see. Lee says they live in the USA. I don't remember what that was about. Sorry, this was a while back. I like what Bishop Hagen says here. All the best people in this world are a little crazy. That makes me feel a lot better.
Well, yeah, thank you. I think.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Right.
I agree. I'm just teasing him.
Yeah. It was awful. It's Earth Mother.
Yeah, that's Pachamama, man.
Worship. Yeah,
Pachamama.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was like it was.
I love when these people go, you evil Meekle. It was Our Lady of the Amazon. How dare you? It's like, give me a break. It's a demon that accepts human sacrifice. Just stop.
Yeah. Again, that's gaslighting at its finest. Yep. Let me see. Much better with the microphone. Thanks. I'm with you. Bishop Meekle says Bishop Haygood. There's also the prophecy of 2 worm-ridden popes. This might be it. Can you expand on that a little bit, Father?
Yeah,
You know about
actually,
that?
I'm not familiar with that. So yeah, if Bishop Haygood wants to
Yeah, flesh it out if unless you did
or
already.
Felix, you can maybe look it up as well.
I
We'll see.
could do that.
I'll tell you, here's an interesting story. So this is how both sides, like some of you use Ground News, and no, this is not an official sponsorship or anything, but it is a useful tool because it shows you the right and left wing skew, so you can read both sides, and that's very good if you want to be informed. Because with all the propaganda, and I hate to say it, but our side can do it too, right? So you want to be you want to try to be a critical thinker, inform yourself. It's not a simple matter of like it used to be. I'd read Breitbart and then Huffington Post, and I figured the truth would come somewhere in the middle. It's not that easy. Like typically, one side lies more than the other, and you can figure that out. So it's not an exact middle between the two, but it is good to hear the challenge to our own points of view. So we're not drinking our own bathwater. And the thing is that when you hear both sides admit that something has happened, just a different interpretation, then you're pretty sure that actually happened. And so some of you know the story of Paul VI. So one of the ways that God indicates favor of a dead person, like in a saint process, is the smell of roses or incense near the body, or sometimes the body's incorrupt. In Paul VI's case, it was an advanced case of decomposition and a stench that was preternatural. And it was so bad they had to pour chemicals in. And everybody agrees it happened, but the two different spins are. So the traditionalists say, of course, it's God showing his disfavor of Paul VI. And the liberals say, no, it was because they used an experimental embalming fluid. Because, of course, you're going to use your experimental embalming fluid on the most important man on the earth, right? But whatever. That's what their story is, and they're sticking to it. And my understanding is the stench is so bad that when they decided to canonize him, they couldn't move him upstairs. They had to keep the tomb down. So there you have it. A little bit of anecdote,
Wow.
and you guys are free to fact check me if you wish or dispute it. But that's just my understanding. All right. Did you look it up, Felix?
Yes, sir. So I have here the prophecy of the 2 worm-ridden popes originates from the reported secret message given during the Marian apparition of Our Lady of La Salette on September 19th, 1846, to 2 shepherd children, Maximine Garrad and Melanie Calvat,
right,
in the French Alps. The local bishop approved the apparition itself as authentic in 1851, but the accompanying secrets, private messages intended for the Pope, have been a source of ongoing controversy and debate within Catholic circles, particularly among traditionalists. The Church has not officially endorsed the full contents of these secrets, and some versions published later contain elements deemed unreliable or expanded beyond the original submitted to Pius IX. And,
yeah, so I must confess, like I've referred to La Salette a number of times in our time together, and for some reason it just didn't click that was it. It can all sort of blend in. There's a lot of Catholic prophecy,
sure,
but anyway, yeah, no, Melanie, some of the stuff, she's the one that predicted there'd be concurrent civil wars in the UK, France, and Italy and Spain. And I keep forgetting the Spain, but and I used to think that was when I first heard about that in the 90s. I thought, well, that's kind of silly, but now, I mean, it's not so silly now. We see what's going on in England, and if it kicks off in England, it'll just spread across Europe.
So
and which side is the church going to be on?
Yeah, right. So check this out.
Right?
So, yeah. So check this out. So this is in that same article. Symbolic interpretation. Worm-ridden is understood as a metaphor for popes who despise holding the office of Peter, allow internal rot such as doctrinal compromise, moral laxity, failure to defend the faith, to undermine the church's foundations. It echoes biblical imagery of decay and ties into warnings of apostasy, priestly scandals, end times tribulations, and the full La Salette secrets.
So are they supposed to be 2 subsequent popes, or
that's what it sounds like? Yeah, that you're going to have 2 back-to-back popes.
See, here's the thing. I don't think, now this again, guys, disagree with me. Put it in the comments. But I don't think, like, Leo doesn't strike me as having the same tone as Francis. Like, maybe he's got me fooled. I think Francis truly hated the church. I think he hated God and he hated the church. I don't get that vibe off Leo. What I get from Leo is he's just one of these silly liberals. but I don't get like an intentional evil or disbelief from him. But Francis, I saw a lot of like hatred of the church. And I don't see that with Leo. Now, I'm not one of these guys that says, oh, Leo's going to turn around. No, Leo's going to do pretty well everything that Francis wanted. And he's sort of a caretaker. And then the next guy will be really, really liberal. So the thing is that unless God intervenes, now God can intervene with the divine illumination. But I'm of the school of thought, and it's okay if you disagree with me. I'm of the school of thought that we need a formal schism to fix it. Like in the past, when we've had schisms, then basically both popes resign, a council sorted, and then a new pope's named, or God will intervene, replace the hierarchy, and Peter and Paul himself will choose a new Peter, and that could very well be. But here's the reason why I say that is, here's the problem. I just don't believe that most of the senior clergy actually believe in Christianity. I just don't see the evidence for it. I think they believe in the institution. I don't believe they believe in the faith. And by the faith, I mean the 20 doctrinal councils in de fide form. So I ask every priest I meet, most of my priest friends are Novus Ordo, and we just agree to disagree on stuff, right? Because, again, the Novus Ordo would consider me schismatic. I don't consider myself that, but that's fine. We can agree to disagree. I'll make my case against it. They can make their case for it. And I'll use their documents to support my case as well, and vice versa. And basically, I just want what God wants. So if God wants me to retire and, be quiet, I'll do it. But so far, every indication he's been telling me to rage against this machine. And, I can number the really good bishops that I know that are living, on two hands in the mainstream church. So, that shouldn't be, right? Like it should be the rarity that there's a bad bishop. Well, there's a rarity, there's a good bishop. That's wrong. One of the best bishops they had was kicked out, Strickland's out there praying his rosary while and not one of his brothers had the courage to go. Their own rules say that if you're an emeritus, you can attend the sessions. Not a single one of his brothers had the courage to go out, pick him up by the arm, and take him into the council chamber. So that tells me all we need to know about the moral courage of the current hierarchy. And it tells me all we need to know. I showed you the webpage. I showed you their webpage. And by the way, you know what was also on their webpage? A gay Bible. They blessed a gay Bible. That was on, go ahead, check it all out. Look this stuff up for yourself. You can't, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. What passes for Christianity in this age. And it's so simple. Let's just even start with the first commandment. So, but anyway, I get a little growly, but it's on that. Anyway, Bishop Haygood, I'll let you read his comment, Felix.
So he says, the worst thing we can do is continue to pretend that everything is okay. It's like watching your house burn down and everything around you while sipping tea and say everything's like, yeah, this is fine, right? Like that meme of the dog in the burning room.
The dog in the burning building. You know what's funny about that? Every time I hear a comment like this, which I 100% agree with, is that there you go. Well, don't do it then. Right. But here's the thing. There's that, was it a Lego? It's some kids movie. And I didn't see the whole movie, but I saw this part, and there's this song, and we can't play it because of copyright, but there's this song that basically these little characters are in this Borg-like world. And the song is like, everything is wonderful, everything is fine. And, and meanwhile, life is pretty miserable for them, but they're all telling themselves, right? So right. It's kind of like this, they really don't realize, like, the demographics alone, the West is in trouble. I don't think I've ever heard, Felix, while we're doing this, can you ask Copilot or something this? Did Benedict XVI ever talk about the need to have larger families? But, Francis said, don't breed like rabbits. And Leo, for the climate, see, here's the thing. The climate doesn't want you to have lots of kids. It wants to depopulate. And the thing is, if you listen to Jordan Peterson or people like me, and who else talks about it? There's someone else famous that talks about it. It's not just Jordan Peterson.
Well,
but
like
this idea of the demographics. No, there's someone Tucker Carlson, I think, but there's someone else. There's someone else famous that goes on about demographics. we are on the brink. Elon Musk. There we go.
Elon. Yeah.
We are on the brink of disaster because we don't have enough young people and the families are too small. You know, I say to secular people, if you just follow the rules of traditional Catholicism, the society works better. Like in terms of family planning and all that kind of stuff, it just does. And there's all these scientific myths about large families and also global population. And it used to inspire people to want to go off world. You know, now they just want to put on a VR helmet and get fat.
Yeah, stop calling me out, Father.
Me too.
Right. So Pope Benedict XVI made several statements praising large families and the societal value of having multiple children, often in the context of biblical reflections and addressing demographic challenges.
Ask it to guesstimate of the last 3 popes who spoke of it more, and can it guesstimate the number of times public mentions were for the last 3 popes? This should
about
be
having large. Yeah. Which one spoke the most about having large families, and how many times were, and approximately how many times was it mentioned?
Yeah.
All right, so I have Grok 4. So this is Grok 4 fast. You were going to say something though. So it's
I was just going to say, if you're not ready to answer, we'll just go to the next comment and we'll come back to it.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Father Haga says, as long as there are trans monks and nuns, I'm sorry, but Rome is just a figurehead occupying a chair.
Yeah, I mean, this is something. So a lot of you guys don't know. There are 2 major embarrassments that the mainstream church has right now. One is Bishop Stowe, and he has this woman with a beard that he acknowledges as a canonical monk, like a male religious. And then there's Cardinal Burke, who apparently recognized some trans as canonically that gender. And he's supposed to be a traditionalist. So there's some real problem in the theological anthropology of the day. So I agree with the good bishop on this. I mean, it's pretty funny. Like our own Father Martin Navarro, when he did everything he could to be a traditional within the confines of the synodal church. And like I say, most of my priest friends are Novus Ordo. So again, like he was Novus Ordo when I met him. And what happened was he got thrown out for praying the breviary privately in Latin. He prayed the English with everybody else. He prayed the English Novus Ordo, but in quiet, he was praying his, for the offices he did alone. He did it the whole, and he got kicked out of his religious community for it. And then he found Father John Melnick, who used to work for Ecclesia Dei in Rome, and they founded a religious community, the Oblates of St. Augustine, which still exists today. And but basically he just wanted to be Catholic. We tried everything. We visited some famous bishops. I won't mention their names right now or without their permission, but we visited a number of Novus Ordo bishops trying to get him to get ordained or recognized, and even recognized as a religious brother. And it's hilarious because, like, to be a brother, really, you just make up your promises, right? Like, I mean, you could call yourself brother if you're baptized and you take, I mean, as long as you're not representing yourself as part of the Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation of Lafayette or whatever diocese you're in, then you can call yourself that. Why not? You take the poverty, chastity, obedience. But anyway, yeah, that the particular diocese he was in said he was a fake monk, but they have this bearded woman that's a real monk apparently. But he's a fake monk because he liked the old mass, and it's just complicated. And people say, "Well, why didn't he go to Pius X and all this?" It's complicated, but it's a story that I'm happy to talk about someday if you want me to do a show on that too.
Oh yeah. All right. So here, so you ready to get your mind blown?
All right.
Based on an analysis of official Vatican documents and speeches, Pope Francis appears to have spoken the most explicitly about the value of large families.
Oh wow!
Often
okay.
in the often in the context of demographic challenges, fruitfulness of love, and children as gifts from God.
I am pleasantly surprised.
Yeah,
but then why did he go on about breeding like rabbits?
Right now, but now check this out. This edges out Pope John Paul II, and Pope Benedict XVI came in last. So 8 to 10 instances for Pope Francis. Pope John Paul is around 6 times. And again,
Yep.
this is like according to official documents, right? And then
Yep.
Pope Benedict was 4 times.
You know what's funny about that, guys? Okay, so this is good. This is interesting because I would have lost a bet on this because I would have guessed that John Paul II would have been the most pro-family.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I came to the seminary, he was the Pope when I was in the seminary. And I was involved in like Human Life International, pro-life groups. And yeah, of course, we saw him as a beacon in the pro-life world. So, and, you know, to borrow from Leo, to be pro-life means to be pro-large family.
Yeah. But we would I think we would need a little bit more context. So, and also just because it was mentioned more doesn't necessarily mean he was more passionate about it. It could have just been
while we go to the next comment, ask in the meantime, because you know Grok's long-winded, right? So
yeah,
while we go to the next comment, and like Grok has to give you an answer. All the other ones will give you like a brief answer. Grok will give you like this essay, like, and you're like, I don't care if you came to it. I'm just, you know, unless I ask you.
Yeah, right.
All this stuff. But no, ask it. Then what about if this is so? Why did Francis mock large families as having breeding like rabbits? And let's see what it says. Now, funny enough, Grok tends to be, even though it's Elon's AI, it's more liberal than say something like Claude, which is also very interesting. But all right, so let's go and move to the next comment.
All right, so we have Norm saying it is so refreshing to hear your passionate expression of wisdom and common sense. Is there any difference between the two? Thank God for your great spirit and love, Bishop Meikle. Oh,
well,
man.
thank you, Norm. One of my disappointments in life is that Norm is on the other side of the state. No, I mean it is interesting. You like to find people that see the world independent. Like it's not like, you know, Norm has his own opinion separate from me. Like you have your own opinion separate from me. But isn't it great when you find people that think like you, at least in the way you look at the world, and you realize that, okay, well, God brings us together, right? So you know, like some of you are here to watch maybe for some material to make fun of me on Twitter. Some of you are here just because you're bored, or some of you are here because you're curious. But some of you are here because you see the world in a certain way, and you don't find many church leaders who think the way you do. And so I would suggest to you that Bishop Snyder does, and but he's not big on online stuff. And that's probably he's praying for you and me in the church, right? So that's good.
Yeah.
And so there's and also he'd get himself into trouble. I mean, if he got in social media too much, he was once on Twitter. He's not anymore. But you know,
I got something for you here. I think this is going to kind of blow your mind too. All right. So
all right. Here we go.
Here we go. Get ready. Pope Francis' remark about not multiplying like rabbits came during an in-flight press conference on January 19th, 2015, returning from a trip to the Philippines. He was addressing questions about the Catholic Church's opposition to artificial contraception, referencing Pope Paul VI's 1968 encyclical Humanae Vitae, which upholds the ban on birth control but permits natural family planning methods. In his words, some that believe that, excuse the crude expression, that in order to be good Catholics, we must be like rabbits who multiply rapidly. On the contrary, it means having an open heart to life, but there is an irresponsibility to take God's gift without a limit. I have met an Italian priest who had a parish in the Amazon, and he told me the story of a woman who was expecting her 10th child. Her husband had gone to Rome with a delegation from the Amazonian region, and she was a bit sad. She said, look, when my husband returns in August, I will be expecting my 8th, and I'm a bit old. How am I going to manage with 8 children? He emphasized responsible parenthood as the key, allowing couples to space births responsibly without artificial means rather than unchecked reproduction that could burden families in poverty.
Well, you know, in phrased like that, you know, there's a lot to this. We could do a whole show just on that answer, but it's certainly not.
It's not
the
evil
hostility towards the church's teaching on chastity that it's made out to be. So there's an example. If that is true, if Grok is correct,
Grok is correct,
I'm just saying, like assuming Grok is correct. I'm not saying it's not. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, assuming that it is. Correct. This is an example. Like, I want our arguments to be based on truth, folks. Right? So I would have lost a bet on this too, because I have a presumption that Francis was a bad dude in most cases. And this is a lot. I still stand by a lot of the stuff I say about him, but your criticisms have to be based on truth, right?
Yeah.
So this is a good lesson that, because I heard the story in a very different light,
Now,
and some of you
yeah,
did too.
even the comment wasn't intended as mockery of large families, but as a rebuke to the stereotype and misunderstanding that Catholic teaching demands endless childbearing, regardless of circumstances, essentially to promote thoughtful stewardship of life's gift over recklessness. Just days
Right.
later, on the 21st, he praised large families as a gift from God during a Vatican audience.
Well, now isn't that interesting? So you know what? There is a tick in the reasons why, something nice I can say about Francis. Here's the thing. I have this little game I play with myself, and that is, can I say something positive about someone I dislike?
There you go.
So I can say lots of positive. I don't really like President Obama, all right? But the guy is neat. He's organized. He speaks well with the teleprompter, and he keeps his office clean.
He's a good wife. No, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry.
And he would have more patience with Felix than some of you would. But anyway, but the thing is, so I can say something good about him. The only people I can even say something nice about Justin Trudeau. I think he loves his children. I think that's positive.
Okay.
The only one I struggle. I can't think of anything nice to say about Hillary. Can you guys think of something? Stick something in there if you know something nice about Hillary. I'd like to have a pause. But now I have something nice to say about Francis because I never did before. So there you go.
Her spirit cooking ceremonies are among the most known. I guess that's
okay. Now some of you are going to be so angry at me for this. Okay, but I'm going to tell you anyway because you're getting me unfiltered. The thing about me is I am in private, just as you see here on air. There is no real difference. Felix can tell you. So my thing is that someone was going on about what was it? I was trying to think. I'm trying to context, but I basically said, they said that so and so was dead, and I said, well, I don't believe. I said, just like Hillary, it would take a wooden stake and a lot of
elbow grease and
yeah. No, but I'm just joking. But
no, of course.
Yeah, but actually no. But seriously, I can't really think of something positive I could say about her. So no, but the reason why that's important, folks, to think about it, like think of someone you dislike, like a political figure is easy. And some entertainment people, you want to be able to, because if you can't come up with at least one, then chances are you have a real bias, right? So
yeah.
So I'm admitting my bias. I just don't like Hillary. I hope that doesn't mean, we'll have to have the disclaimer. Bishop Meikle intends the Clintons no real, so I don't end up disappeared tomorrow or anything. But,
yeah. Oh, the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they lost most of that power if we're lucky.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah. But all joking aside, I really can't. So if you guys think of anything nice about Hillary, put Hillary and something nice about her. That would be absolutely wonderful, because off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. So I have a bias there. I'll admit to you always when I have a bias, and then you're grown up. You can make allowances for yourself.
So
Felix,
Felix.
Here's our other Felix. So Felix, you know where that comes from? You probably do, right?
Oh, the Podesta Catholic?
Yeah, you know where that comes from? That comes from WikiLeaks. So when WikiLeaks came out, we got Podesta's emails. And he was talking about during the time of Benedict, and there's a whole bunch of scuttlebutt about what happened with Benedict's resignation. But during the time of Benedict, he was talking about wanting to change the Catholic Church, to influence the Catholic Church, and call it like a new Catholic Spring or whatever, like the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
And then what he did was he mentioned in the same email he was going to a spirit supper, which is like this demonic ritual, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
the spirit cooking.
Oh my goodness, what are these people doing? So yeah, that's why I call Podesta Catholics. So Podesta Catholics, in my definition, are people that vote pro-abort, but they say they're Catholic. You're a Podesta Catholic.
This is like, all right, and
if you change the O to an E, Felix.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I totally lost my thought. But anyway, yeah, this guy is he's onto something there with that comment. Let me see. Couldn't even recover there. All right, let me see. Norm says the new liberal religion seems more like the religion of the controlling Borg, a la Star Trek. The only meaning is empty, bare material functioning.
Yeah, that's true, Norm. So if you guys follow me on Substack, it's like Substack Bishop Meikle or Bishop Meikle Substack or wherever it works. If you Google me, or if you go to my Twitter, which is Father D.E. Meikle, Meikle, it's I before E except after C, or Meikle. So that's how you remember that. And
Yeah.
if you find me on there, there's a link to the Substack, and there's an image on my one. It's about the death penalty, but if you go, the image is the 3 Borg cubes. And, I don't think it was intentional, but maybe it's a subconscious thing or just coincidence. But there's this thing called Abrahamic family house. So Google this, Abrahamic family house. And it's the only time in 2,000 years that a Catholic church has been named after a living person. So one of those cubes is a synagogue, one of those cubes is a mosque, and one of those cubes is a Christian church. And the cube that's the Christian church was named the Francis Church, and it wasn't after Francis of Assisi. It was after Francis while he was living. And there's a real problem with this. Like, first of all, I want to commend the UAE, which housed this place and built this place. The UAE tries to their best of ability to get along with Christianity and Judaism. They rebuke their more radical Muslims. They truly try to coexist. Now, that's in part because they're rich and civilized, and they're not fundamentalist Muslims. But here's the problem with fundamentalism. Fundamentalism is, when someone called me a fundamentalist once, I said, well, you mean someone that actually believes this stuff? Right? Like, so fundamentalism means what? That you actually believe the doctrines that your particular group teaches. Right? Oh, you found it, Felix. Yeah, take Norm down for a second so people can see it.
Yeah, let me.
There you go. So there you go. There's the 3 Borg cubes. And I don't know which is which. I imagine the center one's probably the Christian one, if you're going by Windows. And I don't know which one's the mosque and which one's the synagogue. But, I want to commend the UAE. I think that, again, there's kind of a secular Islam, for lack of a better term. And a lot of Christian originated people go to Dubai and these other places to escape their oppressive Western governments. It's really weird. Like the way freedoms work in some of these Muslim countries, they don't contradict with a lot of the stuff that ordinary people like us would have. You wouldn't want to be a Muslim woman in these countries, but they seem to be very open to Westerners visiting and living there temporarily. And they don't really stuff their faith down people's throat. I think there's issues with, again, someone could fact check me because I'm just doing this sort of pulling out of my rump here. My understanding is they're like, I don't think there's like regular liquor stores, but they do allow non-Muslims access or something like that. There's like these little stores or something you can go to, I think. But you might, there's some interesting stories about how Islam is kind of like postmodern Christianity. There's what's in the book, and then there's what people actually do. So a friend of a friend was once a bodyguard to an Egyptian sheikh, and this guy was very successful businessman, and it was status to have big white guys as your bodyguards. So my friend of a friend was a big white guy, and he said it was pretty surreal that you'd have to be the close protection person when they went to these functions. And he said they were very lavish, and there would be all these trays of fruit and these little shot glasses with fruit juice, and it was very tasty and exotic and everything. But there was these Japanese screens off to the side, and he was like, it just seemed out of place. Like, why would you have Japanese screens in a Muslim thing? And in behind the screen, he said, there's a table and there's bottles of vodka, and so they're not allowed to drink in their religion. So everybody knows what's behind there, but everybody pretends they don't. And then the guys would go back and they'd chug the vodka, and they'd go back and they'd have their no alcohol. Like, it's just kind of weird. But anyway, different cultures. Like, that's my problem actually with some traditional Catholic, well, any kind of Christianity really, where optic can sometimes be more important than authenticity or true. Like case in point, like in the 50s, if a 14-year-old got pregnant, they'd just ship her off, and she'd stay with an aunt or something, and then she'd come back with an adopted baby or a new niece or new granddaughter. They would tell some story. Everybody knew it was the lady's daughter, but it was just kind of funny. Optic was more important than truth, whereas, they missed an opportunity that the community could say, yeah, you sinned against chastity, but this beautiful gift is not, she's worthy. She's welcome. So there's a missed opportunity of charity, and people were worried about their status. And I see this a lot when people push back on me with the institutional church. A lot of this stuff is they want their status, or they're not interested in fighting for the faith. They're worried about optic or their comfort. They want comfort. They don't want, the cross is not comfortable, right? Like if you're hanging next to our Lord Jesus, you're one of the thieves hanging against, you're not comfortable, right? And some of those thieves might have been less of a sinner than you and me. And right. But I mean,
Yeah.
what do we do? We're worried. Oh, well, I got to go to the bishop's cocktail party, or I got to do, what the heck? What's wrong with you people? Right. And not you guys, but
But
I say that to my flock sometimes. I use that expression, what's wrong with you people? And then I have to say, I don't mean you guys, and I don't mean you, my viewer.
Right,
I'm talking
right.
to the world in general. Poor viewers. They're getting abused, Felix.
Yeah, so other Felix, maybe arguably the better Felix, says, I cannot believe how much things have changed.
Yeah.
We've got Norm says Pope Leo XIV does not appear to be any kind of deep thinker nor great intellect. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I know, Norm. Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't know. Like Benedict was a theologian, right? And we all, but then even John Paul II, again, there's some issues here and there, but the guy was a thinker. And then you're right, Leo is not really known. I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm just saying he's not really known he's known more as a pastor than he was as a theologian, certainly. But yeah, I mean, no offense to him. I think he's a kind man. And I think that he was, when he received, I mean, I think it was sort of pre-planned he was going to be picked, that Francis sort of anointed him before. But that said, I think he was truly moved with his election. I don't think that was an act. I mean, he could have me completely fooled. Again, I'm going to have some of my, other traditional friends or Sadie friends get mad at me that I'm being nice to Leo at all. But no, I don't sense. I got with Francis, I think he really hated the old church. Like when I say he hates the church, I don't mean he hates the new path, the synodal path. I meant he hated the old faith. And maybe he was hurt by it or something. I don't know. It doesn't excuse it. It's just, how can you say that something's wrong for like 2,000 years and then now you get the answer? Just the problem is that with these postmoderns, it like if Leo's right about Catholicism, then none of it makes any sense. You might as well be a Stoic, like read some Seneca or Marcus Aurelius or something, because if he's right, then that means the old faith was wrong. And if the old faith is wrong, then what authority does Leo have? You see what I mean? Like they're kind of self-refuting when you dig into it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So some of you are watching this and you're disagreeing with me and you're saying, oh, that can't be. No, it's seriously, once you see it, you will never unsee it. And then you're like, oh crap, what do I do now? Because I have people say, well, I'll never leave the church. Well, I'll never leave the church. Felix will never leave the church. Both Felixes probably will never leave the church, right?
Yeah, that's right.
No, we don't consider ourselves leaving the church. We consider ourselves separating ourselves from a defiled administration. So someone pees in the swimming pool, you get out of the pool and you clean the pool. And that's all we're doing. And you say, well, that's the same as Luther. No, it's not. No, it's not. Luther created a new religion. He altered the composition of scripture and he created a new religion. And what we're trying to do is restore pre-Luther or at least pre-1960s.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. All right, let me see. There is nothing, Norm says, there's nothing in the Constitution of the U.S. that speaks of separation of church and state. Many Protestants also do not believe in that division in like agreement with Catholicism. Yeah,
so the main argument comes from my secular friends is that they don't want theocracy, and we all agree. I don't think any Protestant or Catholic wants a theocracy. We don't want the descendants of Billy Graham or Bishop Meikle to forever, that the government has to ask us what to do before they do it. That's not the plan. What we're saying is that the general frame of Christianity, and if there's something morally gray, I'll give you a good example. So, like let's say if someone had a moral question about when you can harvest organs after a car accident, this kind of thing, and they say, hey, Padre, can you give us some information from a theological point of view? That's where you'd want your government to consult clergy, like, and not just me, like by all means, take it from a couple of different traditions and then pray on it, right? And so that's all we would say, is that we should advise the state on faith and morals. but they have the proper care of the secular order. You don't want me setting the price for the dog catcher. But by the same token, if the speeding fines are $5,000 and they're catching people going around a corner that's not well labeled, then yeah, I suppose I could weigh in on a moral thing and say, hey, if you're going to charge this, you should put a better notice and whatever. It's not a command; it's a suggestion based on sort of moral reasoning, right? So that there's a role for clergy there. So in terms of separation of church and state, that's right. It was like post-constitutional writings that people have grabbed on, and they misunderstood it. It was supposed to keep the state out of church affairs and not establish a national religion, because the Puritans were escaping a national religion, which is what's now the Episcopalians, but is Anglicanism in the UK. And so you can understand why they don't want one particular national church to have dominion over all the people. That's fair enough. That's all fair. I'll tell you a funny story. I think you guys like it. So I had a couple that came to my church. For Felix, it was Tom and Joanne. And they brought their daughter, Trudy. And one day, and she was in charge of some sort of Republican thing. I think she's in another state, I think. I don't know where she lives. But anyway, she was visiting. And they were all looking forward to her meeting her because they thought, oh, she's going to be right up your alley. And, you guys all agree. Well, she was angry at me because, and she's a good lady, and there's nothing, don't be angry at her if you know her. She was right. I mean, this is an example of agree to disagree, right?
Yeah.
But she said, you better tell my father, Mikkel, that he's got to learn. He's new to, he still has that Canada in him. He doesn't understand the separation of church and state that we have down here, and he shouldn't be saying this and this and this and this and this. Okay. And it was funny because poor Tom and Joanne, both I hope are in heaven with their God right now. They passed away. But they said to me, like they felt bound that, their daughter told them that they had to talk to me, so they were going to do it. But you could tell they were very uneasy because they didn't want to say anything negative to me. And I thought it was cute. But anyway, so then I said, okay, yeah, fair enough. I said, is that manslaughter? It separates church and state. Is that man's law or God's law? And they stopped and they looked at one another and they looked at me and they both said at the same time, well, it's man's law. I said, right. I said, which one do you want your pastor to follow? And then I walk away like mic drop.
Right.
So I like that story. I thought you'd get a kick out of it. And if Tom and Joanne are in the position to pray for us, I hope they do.
Please. All right. So let's see. Dale.
Hey, Dale. Welcome. Yeah,
All right,
normally we get go team, but Dale heard a little bit of this Leo stuff, but it was God help us.
God help us.
Well, yeah, I knew this was going to be a little spicy. It'll be interesting to see. We don't have it depends on when we air, how much we have concurrent live. And then of course, depending on the topic, the thumbnail and the title, we'll get, a couple hundred to watch it and replay. So it'll be interesting if we get any comments on this one. Got all people saying, you're mean to Leo. It's like, no, I don't hate Leo. I actually have some nice things to say about him. I'm lamenting the fact that modern Christianity across all of the denominations has been corrupted by the world. That's my main assessment, right? That doesn't mean I hate Leo. It means I disagree with Leo. I bet that if Leo and I sat down, both of us would have a perfectly enjoyable coffee together. There'd be things we'd agree to disagree on. I'm not going to budge on certain things. He's not going to budge on certain things. I don't hate him. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't hate me. So I don't, but that doesn't mean I'm going to just be quiet when he does crazy stuff. Right?
Right. No, totally.
So
all right.
There you go.
So Norm says, I love Bishop Schneider. I really love his book versus Vincent Price, Triumph Over the Darkness of the Age.
Yeah, I'm a big Bishop Schneider fan too. There's a bunch of traditionals that don't like his credo, but they don't understand. So he did a catechism called Credo. Actually, I should look up like Novus Ordo Watch or something like that and find out why they don't like it. I'm not an expert in it, so I would like to know. And actually, if any of you guys know or have a link, you can put that in the comments for me. But yeah, the thing is that I see Bishop Schneider as a very holy man. That does not mean he agrees with all the traditionals. And listen, none of us traditionals agree on everything, right? We have very different ideas on how to make the restoration work, and but there are issues on detail. We all agree that the pre-1960 faith and the current faith are different in foundation and telos. So what's that in English? Well, foundation is the assumptions, like what you base it on. So modern Christianity or modern Catholicism bases everything on Vatican II and after, and we base everything on Scripture and the 20 doctrinal councils of the De Fide form, excluding anything contrary. So there's an encyclical or a document called Pascendi, which you should look up, and you'll see if you read Pascendi, it reads like an anti-Vatican II. Even Benedict XVI said that Vatican II was the anti-Pascendi. And here's the problem. I mean, that's the biggest evidence that the two religions are different. And so if you can figure out how to square that circle and you want to educate me, then listen, as long as it's respectful, I will listen to you. But it's my school of thought that, old and new faith aren't the same, and that Bishop Snyder is a bridge. And if there's ever to be a new leader of that particular movement, it should come from a traditional in the synodal church that's escaping and can sort of bridge us all, right? Because, it's probably more likely the bridge would work and we could get together and he would facilitate. He would listen to every argument. He's a little hard on Sede Vacanus, but I think he would explain properly. He'd understand the Sede position differently. Part of the problem is the culture of the Sedes can be a little harsh to someone like Snyder, because from their point of view, you're supposed to be a bishop, then you should be attacking all this bad, and he does in his own way. I mean, he's just he's a very holy man. I think he's a very holy man, and I'm going to get flamed for that from some of my Sede friends, but I think he is, and I think if there's any, there are things that he could probably change in view a little bit, but he'll do that through charity and a good argument, not through just telling him he's wrong. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So let's see here. Next. Bishop says he's appointed too many pro-LGBT bishops with a history of covering up for PDF files. It doesn't bode well for Leo XIV.
Yeah, you're referring to Leo, not to Snyder, to be clear, right? That's right.
Yeah,
so,
yes,
Leo's biggest weak link, for those of you who are Leo fans, the weakest link of Leo is his appointments. So, he dresses nice and he's a nicer person than Francis, but his appointments are really bad. He puts some very bad people in some very bad spots. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Bishop says, actually, the English Catholic Church is slowly taking roots in Anglican hotspots now that Anglican has been associated with Sarah Mullally.
Yeah. So that was one of the candidates for tonight's show topic, actually. So on the notion of female ordination and her, I gave Felix a blast of stuff, and he said, Ice Cube, and I said, okay. So yeah, I had like so much happened last week, and I mean,
yeah. Now this I didn't even know.
What a lot of Novus Ordo Catholics don't realize is that the Anglicans are a canary in the coal mine for Catholicism. Is that they got the nose, like the camel's nose is already under the tent. Like most people don't know. And when Francis made the minor orders, instituted ministries, and appointed women to them, it's already happened. It's done. The camel's nose. I was teasing one of my so they're traditional. They say a traditional mass, but they're with the diocese. And I was teasing one. I was saying, yeah, what are you guys going to do when your subdeacon is a woman? Oh, that'll never happen. Oh. You're regular with it. You got to pay to. They're going to come to you with instituted acolytes that are going to claim to be straw. They have the right to be a straw subdeacon, and if you exclude them on the basis of their gender when they've been appointed officially by the church, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the next. I thought that's how they were going to humiliate the TLM and the mainstream. I thought what they were going to do is enforce the altar girls, the Eucharistic ministers, stuff like that, or change the calendar to the new one. But we'll see. I mean, these things, guys, I'm happy when I'm wrong with my predictions that are things. If I predict something that's not good, I'm not one of these guys that wants to be right and have you miserable. I say stuff that I think I see. I make an educated guess. I see the writing on the wall. If it doesn't happen, I'm happy. I'm not. I'd rather be wrong, and I'll even make fun of myself for it, than be right and have you miserable. But I also want you to be warned. So I'll tell you what I see coming.
Yeah. Now, Bishop Haga says, November 28, 2008, large families are a sign of faith, generosity, and confidence in life. They are a blessing for the church and for society. That is a direct Benedict XVI quote.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Dubai, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia are very westernized. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, and I mean, Bishop Haga can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is especially if you have a certain amount of money, like you're middle class, upper middle class or above, that you really, you don't notice a big difference. That's my understanding. Yeah. It was a guy on YouTube there. I watched this fella, Ed Lawrence. He started off, he just basically teaches you a little bit about YouTube stuff. And he moved to Dubai to get away from crazy England. This is funny. England gets overrun, so you go to Dubai, but they're nice to you over there. So he goes to Dubai, but it's also, tax free. So, but he was saying he was knocking on he showed you the apartment, and he knocked on one of these pillars. It was this beautiful, like, palatial thing. Knock on the pillars, and it was like hollow. It was like, it's just all fake, as well. So it's kind of interesting.
Right. Now, let me see. I speak from firsthand experience.
Oh, you went over there. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've never been.
Joshua says Hillary Clinton played a key role in the creation of the state children's health insurance program. That was a bipartisan bill that expanded low health care coverage to children of low-income families.
Thank you, Joshua. Now this is good, because I mean, no, seriously, I had a real, I really couldn't think of something nice, and I thought, and that always worries about me. That always worries me, because no one is 100% evil, right? Except maybe my grade 1 English teacher. I'm not sure she had a reflection in the mirror, but I'm just joking.
Hey, and you know what?
Teacher.
She always has hot sauce in her purse. There's something to be said about that. So,
Well, this is good. Thank you, Joshua. That was good.
Actually, yeah. That is. I need to. All right. So here's a problem with this. Right now, again, on its surface, that seems nice, but it's like saying, and Obama passed healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and during his administration. Sounds great, but if you you dig deep, you start wondering, and to go even on the darker side, and Joshua, this isn't, this, I think even here you might have an actual point, just to be clear, but you hear a story like the Clinton Foundation did a lot for Haiti during the hurricane recovery and the earthquake, whatnot.
Oh, yeah. It was funny. I had a premonition you were going to bring up Haiti.
Yeah. And you could look into it. Yeah. Oh, the Clinton Foundation was very hands-on. Yeah. And
in fairness, Hillary probably loves Chelsea too, right? So I mean, if I give Trudeau the credit for being a good dad, I mean, I don't know if Hillary wasn't, like, it's pot calling kettle black, in some respects of, when people are busy, like, especially if you're a leader of such. I mean, your kids are going to be sort of sidelined a bit, but I think she has a sincere love for her daughter too. So that's good. There's got to be, I try to,
Yeah. And even Trump said, hey, she's a fighter, right? Like during the debate, he was like, yeah, she's a fighter. That's one thing I'll say about her. She won't give up. That's something. Definitely not better, Felix.
Right. On her better days, she's kind of like, she can be scrappy, but funny.
Yeah.
So, but she got sort of like the TDS going there. She's sort of like Joy Behar. Like when they get to a certain, or Rachel Maddow, God love her. These people are so miserable. It's like once they hit a certain point, they go hard over, and they're just ruining themselves. Like it's like the reaction over this sombrero thing was really quite funny, because he wasn't putting like sombreros on people of Hispanic descent. He was putting sombreros on everybody other than, including himself. He had sombreros. And then what I love is they get growly that they're not making fun of themselves. They do. Look at the JD Vance memes. My goodness. And JD himself posts it.
He'll post those. And the thing about even with the Mexican thing, the best thing was to just keep going with it and lean in, because what was it, the news organization? Then they had the meme of the news guy and then he had the Mexican hat on too.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just funny, and I love the ones where the Trump came up. He came up with the sombrero.
Yeah.
He just put it on. It was just funny. But it's just one of these things that created a life of its own. And there's all kinds of different ways they could have been playful back. Like,
True.
I think that's one of the things that we've got to realize is that sometimes, even when something's stressful or scary, humor can reset a lot of stuff, right? Like I actually, it's one of the criticisms I get is that people feel that my humor is inappropriate or is inappropriate at serious times sometimes. I mean, again, that's, if it was only one person that said it, I'd dismiss it, but no, there are a couple people have said it. So, I mean, we all have our different attributes or different ways of handling stress or different ways of diffusing things. And I think, we used to have an expression in my little gang of guys in the military that hung around with fresh wounds need salt. So if someone got upset, you just double down until they finally started laughing with you and dished it back. The best way to fight humor that's teasing you is to tease back and do it clever. You might have to wait your time, but you can do it. And people like being around funny people, right? My problem is I tried 20 funny things and only one of them's actually funny. But, if you were really funny, you could.
Yeah, right. Stop.
Right?
You're a riot.
My problem is I am a funny guy, but I'm funny strange, not funny haha. Why are you guys still watching? You're crazy. You should have clicked up by now. I should be getting the YouTube notification. Your viewers all plummeted here. When you said cow fart.
Yeah, right. All right. So Bishop Haga says, when you're ready to talk about that, let me know. I'm on the inside. This was from 10 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah. When you're talking about the thing abroad. I'm just scary with my mouth and always preaching that I think crusades are a good idea. That maybe I might be a little less welcome than you.
Yeah. No, that's like kind of like the inside joke now with my other podcast. It'll be like, should Jerusalem be under Jewish control or Muslim control? And then it was like, you know what? There's a third option.
Christian King, man. Christian King.
Right, yeah. So
how to win friends. I call it How to Win Friends and Influence People, Meekle Edition. And then I say something obnoxious like, yeah, you guys both shut up. We'll put a Christian King in there and he'll let both of you have access to your holy site. You just stop being donkeys to one another.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, Josh, I want to say S-chip. That's the child healthcare thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's great, but it certainly provides a necessary benefit. Fair enough. It provides a necessary benefit to kids in the interim as a better solution is developed. I think you're correct on that. Yeah, again, I won't take your W away for that.
I'm just excited we found something, so I'm appreciative Joshua for it. And the other thing is that jeepers, the healthcare is something that really could use a bunch of people of goodwill getting together, and some people that know what they're talking about too, with regards to the. But there's a graph, and I think Joshua would probably be of interest, or he probably knows more about it than me. But I saw this graph of like percentage of money, healthcare money that goes to the care workers, the nurses, the doctors, and whatever, and the administration. And it's like the universities. It just goes, and the graph goes. You can do a search for it, but in terms of percentage of how healthcare dollars get spent, we can put our politics aside for a moment and just say, jeepers, we got to do better on this. Like with the rise of AI, we should be having less administrators, not more, right? And so there's the healthcare money should be going to care. And also, again, it doesn't matter what your politics are. I think both Democrat and Republican would agree that it's unjust to be able to buy a prescription in France made by an American pharmaceutical company at a fraction of what it costs the Americans. See, the problem is that the companies are going to bill as much as they can get, right? So you've got to, whatever we do for jeepers, that whole healthcare thing is a complicated mess because there doesn't seem to be any perfect system. And the systems that used to work, like people would talk about Scandinavia or even Canada, they worked when there wasn't this baby boom going through and no young people. Like there's a real mess coming with the elder care. So in Japan addresses it with robots and stuff, but it's an interesting thing. It's just one of these things I wish people could stop hollering at one another and just sit down and hash it out with a couple weeks at a retreat or something, and then come up with a bipartisan thing. But everybody has to get their stuff in. It's like when you have a bill, like let's say you had a bill, like let's put reflectors on the center line of the road. Well, by the time the bill's done, it's like 1,000 pages and everybody's got this little insert for something that had nothing to do with roads. So actually one little reform that could be made, that I wish both parties would do it. It'd be great if politicians of both parties would sign on to it. Like better to pass a whole bunch of bills that are smaller, that are only like 10 pages, than these huge bills that no one reads. And they have a bunch of line items that have nothing to do with the title. Every bill should be titled what's in it. And I think, but what do I know? I'm a silly bishop with a bad sense of humor, and really, it's not a professional outfit here, Felix.
Yeah, right. Hey, that's quite all right. Hold on, I gotta find the. I gotta find them. I gotta find it. I have.
Are you professional or not?
No. Listen, I've never claimed it. Right?
You're,
Just a guy that loves our Lord and wants your soul to go to heaven. That's me. Everything else, I'm a bag of hammers.
So Father Hagen said these rich people with Trump derangement syndrome are the ultimate pot calling a kettle black scenario.
How can we have such racism on this channel? I agree, Bishop Hagen. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah. I'm the only person who caught that Sling Blade movie reference. What? First off, I appreciate. I love Sling Blade. Now, I haven't seen it in quite a few years. Are you familiar?
Nope, never even heard of
movie
it.
Sling Blade.
So I wonder. Yeah, what? Maybe if it was me that said, I don't know, it was you or me, but maybe just synchronicity or something.
Don't call it Kaiser Blade. I love. Yeah, that movie's
it's
great.
Not a word.
Yeah, it gave us Billy Bob Thornton. We had to suffer him for the past 20, 30 years because of that movie.
I don't even remember all the details of the movie other than I found it interesting. He had a movie. The only movie I remember him in, I think, was Pushing 10, it was called. It was about air traffic control.
Oh, God. That sounds fascinating. But no.
Well, yeah. There's like a $6 air traffic control simulator that you can get that just like an approach control, and that's what I do to relax, which is kind of funny.
Oh, hey,
I'll go on there for 20 minutes and make all the planes go. It's pretty good. It's not like a cartoony game. It's the radar screen for it. It's kind of cool.
So here's our last comment. It's like perfect timing.
Yep.
I said we can talk about Anglicans are realigning. They realize Anglican is by default associated with Sarah Mullally. It's a marketing graveyard.
Yeah, and Bishop can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not familiar with her. I'm just hearing this secondhand. Is that the funny strange thing? Yeah, no, that's my own. That's it's interesting. That's going.
Not funny.
I've been saying that for years. When did this movie come out anyway? I was saying that in high school.
90 something. Yeah. So
I graduated in 88. So there you go. I predate it. Maybe someone overheard me and they stole it for their movie. No, just
well, in the context of the movie, it was like an older generation guy talking to the kid, one of the kid characters, the kid character who befriended Billy Bob's character, and like there's someone says something along the lines, he's not funny, he's funny something else.
Yeah,
but
that's story of my life. But see, you embrace it, right? Or I do. I mean, I've always been a little salmon against the stream in a lot of respects. So it's just where I'm comfortable. Whenever everybody agrees with me, I start to worry.
All right. So, did I make it to the asylum? One piece is over.
That's right. But I was just back to the Anglican missus there. My understanding in the marketing graveyard is that she's like pro-abort and stuff too, right? So I mean, not only do you have the layer of female in a role that's male, but you have this contra Christianity morality. And
Yeah.
it's like it just goes to show you, that means what that does is that signals to everyone that your church is more interested in, again, organization. Catholics have the same problem, just it's framed differently.
Yeah.
That the institution or your organization is more important than the faith. And you really don't want to be in that spot. Like, I have all these people, they scream at me, "Oh, you left the church." No, I didn't. No. Hey, Jesus founded the Catholic Church, and I'm part of it. And I'm sure Bishop Haygood believes he's a Catholic as much as Leo or me or whatever. And the thing is that God's going to sort that out. And it's like, do you hold the Catholic faith? And then my question is, okay, well, and how do you define that? And my definition might even differ from Bishop Haygood's, because we're different communities. But but my point is, there's an objective definition, which either includes, different groups or not. But the problem with Christianity is itself right now is that the big churches are more interested in institutional affiliation and power, such as it is. I mean, the institutions are in decline. They're a shadow of what they used to be, but they still have some power and influence. And, there are people that think that they're going to be saved because they're a member of a church that worships Pachamama or venerates Pachamama. Well, I mean, okay, you can go with that. And God knows the heart. And I'm not saying there's not mitigation. I'm just saying, don't get mad at me for saying I'm not going to put my name to this. Like, we're on uncharted ground, and all of us, Bishop Haygood, myself, Bishop Sanborn, Archbishop Vigano, all these different church characters, Bishop Snyder, all these different characters, all of us characters are making the best decision we know with the information we have to serve God first. And if someone on Twitter doesn't like it, or that we make them feel a little uncomfortable, well, too darn bad. You know what? I don't care. I don't. Good luck on your path. I'm going to make my case, and you can make a respectful case back to me if you feel so inclined. But, I'm not likely to change my mind, because I've been in this, environment for decades, as is Bishop Haygood, as is all of us who've come to this. And it's not like I don't know what the Novus Ordo teaches. I used to street preach, for goodness sakes, as a layman. I used to borrow from the playbook of Frank Sheed and Maisie Ward, and armed with Carl Keating, Catholicism and Fundamentalism, which came out in the 90s, and it was the blue ribbon source to how to deal with non-denominationals and how to explain Catholicism. And I had there was a lot of victories in the terms of not so much the street stuff. Only Harry Krishnas and Joe Witnesses would speak to me on the street, but there was a lot of coffee shop and Irish pub and officers' mess discussions with non-denominational Protestants, and plant a little seed. And I'm sure some of them became Orthodox traditional Catholic over the years, because they'll go back to the early church. And that's, if you go back and you read the writings of the early church, you end up either Orthodox or traditional Catholic in one of our forms. You don't stay modern Christian, not unless you're just in it for the social networking, and that you're looking for a religion to give you comfort and a prop for your psychological and spiritual comfort. Because this is the day saints are made. This is the time the saints are made. And this is the time to be willing to be uncomfortable for the cross. And you're just not going to find it with blessing blocks of ice, okay? You're going to find it facing the machetes of Nigeria. You're going to find it facing the people that are trying to censor you here in North America, especially poor Canada. You're going to find it in, opposing the people that want to take away our freedoms of speech, our freedoms to defend ourselves, our freedom to worship. And you're going to realize that politics and religion aren't as separate as a lot of people would like them to be, because essentially the law of prayer informs the law of belief, which informs the law of moral action. And that moral action is by its nature socio-political and anthropological. So there's no complete divorce of church and state. But we are all on agreement, including my secular friends, no one wants a theocracy. But, it's funny, because just like the left will call people they don't like racist or other names of, like, Germans in the 30s. But they also will call someone like me that I want a theocracy, which is just not true. Because if you know, there's a a very small subset of clergy I really trust and look up to, and most of my priest friends are Novus Ordo. A couple of my classmates are Novus Ordo bishops and vicar generals, the Novus Ordo, and some I'm more in contact with others. But yeah, I'm not against these guys, but I'm going to make my case. And my case, of course, is going to run against their position. And some people just can't take criticism of their position without thinking that you're crapping on them, or you think they're a bad priest or a bishop or whatever. That's for God to decide. I can only tell you how I feel I'm going to be judged. And, I can plant a seed and hopefully people do their own homework. That's the way you change your hearts and minds, folks. You plant seeds, you treat people with respect. They do their own homework. And some of the stuff that you tell them, they've never even occurred to them. Like, it never even occurred to somebody I was talking to that little statue of the Pachamama wasn't just Our Lady of the Amazon. And they didn't realize it was such a big deal. And they looked up and they read both and they prayed about it. They researched what the Pachamama was before the church even venerated it. And aha, see, their research and the Holy Ghost enlightened them. It wasn't me winning an argument. You share your view, respectfully listen to somebody else's, you plant the seeds, and you let God do the conversion of heart and mind, and it works. And then you're not there's two Catholic brothers that they self-style themselves as brothers as well, like religious brothers. And whenever they get on debate, they just overrun the other guy with hollering at them questions over them, right? And in a sense, they win these debates, but there's no wisdom. Like you've won in a sense that someone can win a fight with a sucker punch versus, a proper fair fight. So I don't want to do that to people. I don't want to do that to any of you. If you have a sincere area of disagreement, then yeah, respectfully share it and I'll respectfully answer you back. But if you notice on Twitter, I only get nasty with people when they're disrespectful. Like, or they speak untruth. Like that really irks me, right? They'll tell me what I believe. Excuse me? What? You're in my mind, are you? What they heard someone say something about me, 3 people removed, and then they share it with me like it's, what I hold. And that kind of crap I get a little, assertive with, right? Because that's just, and I get a kick out of it, Felix. You know what? Whenever somebody really takes me on, they always have like 3 followers or 90 followers or something like that, right? So that makes me think they're alt accounts with just cowards, right?
Sock puppets. Yeah.
So I will only engage those. So there's 2 ways I engage those. One, I didn't notice it was one of these accounts. And then secondly, if I think it's going to be a benefit to their mutual readers, then I'll engage a little bit. But I especially love when people expect me to do their homework. No, if you want to research something, you research it. I'm not here to be your administrative assistant. I'm going to tell you, as I understand it, what's going on, and you can either accept it or reject it. And if I have the time to engage and give you a little more info, I will. But it may come to a surprise to some of you. I have other things to do but be on Twitter. I tend to be on there like Mondays a little bit, and then I'm sort of sporadic. Everything they tell you not to do in social media, I do, right? So I'm not consistent. I'm not, but
yeah. Well, I guess that's it. I mean, we do have a couple of other ones that we'll see. Basically, the last one thing here is, okay, so, well, if we're being honest, we're a generation away from women priests in the modern church, and because we do need to meet together soon and figure out what we can do to turn the ship around. It's utter madness.
Yeah, it is utter madness, and it'll be interesting. I really don't think the mainstream church is going to, like, on the current course, you won't avoid women's ordination. You just won't, and you won't avoid the changing the church's teaching on chastity. And I mean, these things they've adopted completely the political and anthropological views of the left. And so these things will lead to a loss of faith and the exertion of the institution for leftists only think in terms of power. So right-wing people typically what we're after is whatever is true and real. And so that's why we give other people the opportunity to attack or have counter views, and we often will just let them be, right? Because we're like, well, you believe what you do, whatever. But the thing is that the left thinks everything that we say against them is violence. They want to reframe ideas and words as violence, whereas someone who is a non-leftist will realize that freedom of speech, when our so-called violence can be done in argument, that prevents or hopefully doesn't escalate into physical stuff, right? So that's one of the reasons why you want freedom of speech, is for peace. And you agree to disagree. What's wrong with that? That's what I was brought up with. I mean, I bet you a lot of folks watching this, you were brought up that way too. Agree to disagree. You don't have to hate someone for seeing the world differently. And if there's certain values or things you can't compromise in, then hold your ground. Have backbone. Stand against it. But don't take it as a personal offense that people see the world differently than you. It's kind of ridiculous. Make your case without any exaggeration or lie, and the truth will prevail. You have nothing to worry about. God has your back. On that note, let's finish with a little prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Dear Lord, thank you for our time together. May we be inspired to align our day and our will and our whole life trajectory with how you wish us to be. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, God bless and protect you. I will see you next week on Tuesday again. Oh, I didn't tell you. I'll tell you one more thing before we go. Why I was late. My cat, that little tuxedo cat that we used for the ending, he attacked my camera and I couldn't get it to work yesterday. I still don't know what he did. I shut everything down several times. It didn't work. And I just jiggled cords and the camera worked again. So it is what it is, but it was my cat. So on that note, I wish you good night.
Good night, everyone.